Ms Legalista here back. I have been having some, I don't even want to say audio issues, just all kinds of computer issues this morning. Audio wasn't working. I'm not sure what was going on with it. Had to turn the computer off, turn it back on. But I'm sure you're not here for all of that. If you've been paying attention, you may have heard that Buster Murdaugh is now going after Netflix, demanding a jury trial because of the documentaries that were shared on Netflix, suing also Warner Brothers and some other parties. But I want to go back for those of you who are saying, wait, that name rings a bell, but I'm not sure who that is. Alex Murdaugh's son. Remember, Alex Murdaugh was convicted of killing his wife, Maggie, and their son, Paul. And he's serving life sentence for that. He's also serving 40 years on some federal charges and 27 on some state charges. He lost his law license. And there was also the questionable death of his housekeeper. So now that all of that is coming back to you and you're going, okay, now I remember who Buster Murdaugh is. Now, he's been saying in the news for a while that he does not think that his father received a fair trial. He's been saying, if you watched it or something like that, supposedly he said, then you would see that he did not receive a fair trial. So you've got all of these things sort of out there around him. Then you also had the death of the family friend, classmate of theirs, Mallory Beach, in the boating crash. The boating crash where Paul was driving the boat. So you've got this family who's been running things for a while. Father's now been convicted, serving time, probably never going to get out. And the remaining son who's out here is saying, hey, you've been associating my name, me, with the death of someone else, Stephen Smith. Now, Stephen Smith was a classmate also. He was 19 years old, only 19 years old when his body was discovered in 2015 on a road about 15 miles from the Murdaugh's family property, the same property where Maggie and Paul were found shot to death. Now, initially, if you remember, Stephen Smith's death was ruled a hit and run. And you see this in the documentary. You see people talk about it. You see people questioning it and saying, I just, something doesn't seem right. You hear all of that in the documentary. Well, the case was reopened a couple of weeks after this double murder, and state law enforcement down in South Carolina has been, reinvestigating this now as a homicide. So there've been all of these documentaries around the family, news articles written about everything that's been going on. And there still remains the conversation, the questions, the unanswered questions about Stephen Smith's death. And his family, feels like they have not gotten answers. And when you're in a position where you feel like there's been the death of a loved one and you don't know what's going on, you're going to talk about it. And because the Murdaugh family was in the news, it's hard to sort of talk about one. And if you're a documentarian or writing a news article, if you're hearing these things, then you're reporting on what you're hearing. Well, Buster's saying, hey, you went too far. You went too far. This is defamation. And I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. So let me stop here for a minute because I want to ask you. I already know the answer, I think. Pretty sure I already know the answer. But have you ever been in a position where you've had somebody say something about you that you knew was not true? Now, all of us probably went to middle school, went through high school, have worked in environments where we felt like people were just saying things about us that just wasn't true. We've maybe even been in church, served in some organizations. Now, you know how these organizations are. People get to talking, and then the talking gets to talking. And so you've been there. People have said things about you. You've gotten your feelings hurt. You've wanted to lash out. You've wanted to make sure your name was respected when people spoke it. So, yeah, so Buster's feeling some kind of way now because people keep associating him with the death of Stephen Smith. And he feels like some people have gone too far with this. But we've all been there. We've all been there. And now, of course, you have social media. So it's not that it's just the documentaries. People share all of this on social media, and they might even be sharing some things about you on social media. I ran into a situation not too long ago where I was going through some paperwork with someone, and we came across a list. And this person had sort of put together a list because they had been upset with someone because someone had done something. And this was like their revenge list, get back list. I'm going to get back at you. And the person had specifically labeled like what they were going to do at what times and on what days. Like that's how specific it was. But, the person was never really going to do anything. It was a way for them to sort of put that anger and frustration into something without doing something that would get them in trouble. But a lot of times people contact me. They want to reach out. They want to do something. They want to cease and desist. They go, hey, I want to sue this person for defamation because they're saying this stuff about me and I don't like it. I don't like it. And then we have a conversation about that, right? So let's get back to Buster. He's given some interviews. Again, like I said, he's talked about his father not having a fair trial. There's all this stuff in the documentaries. And now it looks like, there's this lawsuit here. And let me pull this up so that we can take a look at it. There are a few things in there that I do want to sort of point out here. And there you can see at the top there, coming out of Hampton County, and his name is actually Richard Alexander Murdaugh. So he has his father's name. Jury trial. They are asking for a jury trial. They want to put this in front of the people, And remember, it's going to be like, hey, I'm trying to protect my name here. I haven't done anything wrong. And so, that's something you may be able to sell to a jury more easily than to a judge. But remember, these are going to be people from the community who know this name, who already know this story. So it's going to be a little interesting to see where this goes. But what I really want to point out, as I get ahead of myself there with sliding all of this, look at the parties that are being sued here. And there's one in particular I want to talk about, but look at the parties that are being sued. Blackfin Inc. Okay, never heard of them. Warner Brothers, I'm sure we've all heard of them. Warner Media Entertainment Pages. Campfire Studios sounds like another entity that was probably involved with the making or distribution of some of this documentary material or some of these fictional movies. Netflix, we've all heard of Netflix. Gannett Company Inc. tends to do more print media. And Michael DeWitt. Now, look at this. Here's something I want to point out because this is the thing that I tell people all the time. Blackfin Inc., Warner Brothers Discovery Inc., Warner Media Entertainment Pages Inc., Campfire Studios Inc., the Cinemart LLC, Netflix Inc., Gannett Company Inc. And then at the very end, what do you have? Poor Michael M. DeWitt Jr. Personally. So do you see the difference there? These other defendants are entities which are set up to protect individuals from liability. Any liability that's going to happen is going to come out of the pocketbook of those entities, these corporations, the company, the LLC. That's why you set them up so that whoever's running the show is not personally sued. Now, there are some ways that you can get around that sometimes, but look at poor Michael. Poor Michael is there all by himself. Do you see a CO or an Inc. or an LLC behind his name? No, this is not where you want to be. And I just want to point this out as we're looking at this. Poor Michael is in a very, very tricky position there. He, like if they find that he actually engaged in defamation. He's personally on the hook there. His name is listed there personally. Personally. Now, I believe he works for Gannett, maybe an agent of Gannett. And so there may be some liability flowing from that. He may try to argue, hey, that this is entirely through my work with Gannett and I should not be listed personally. His attorney may pull some of that out of the hat. But look at him right now. Poor Michael. Do you want to be Michael? Nobody wants to be Michael here. When they say want to be like Mike way back in the day, the commercials, you probably don't remember those. This is not the situation where you want to be like Mike. Okay. I'm just telling you, you want to have some protection there. And right now, it's just looking like Mike doesn't have a whole lot. So we don't want to be Mike. But I want to scroll through this a little bit. And as you see, like I said before, you're going to see, and that was just the summons. Here's the complaint. Blackfin Inc. is a corporation, and they talk about what they've done. Warner Brothers Inc. is a corporation. You see what they've done here? All of these companies, they go through and list who they are. And then eventually, we get down here to DeWitt. Okay, so you have Gannett Company, which publishes the Hampton County Guardian and other local and regional news sources. And then you have Michael DeWitt. Poor Michael. Poor Michael is a resident of Hampton County and editor of the weekly newspaper, the Hampton County Guardian. And when we get further into this lawsuit, you're going to see that they actually put some of Michael's statements in here. Like, you don't see them really digging through and pulling examples from specific documentaries a whole lot. This is what I sometimes refer to as a skinny complaint, because it doesn't have a lot of the extra in there that I like to see. I want to see some extra. I want to see some facts. I want to see some pictures. I want to see some statements, because I'm that kind of person. But here, this is pretty skinny, which is fine. You just have to put enough facts in here to be able to survive a motion to dismiss. And you all probably know that by now. But here is poor Michael. Poor Michael is just listed here as a person. But let's go back and take a look at some of these, just the background here. It says on July 8th, Stephen Smith, whose car had given out of gas, was walking along a rural road in Hampton County, South Carolina. It was late at night, and he was walking along the road. As he was walking along the road, he was allegedly struck by a part of a vehicle and killed. News sources now report his death as being considered by a statewide grand jury, and the media has reported on individuals unrelated to plaintiff allegedly being involved in his death. The plaintiff, even though he has been falsely accused of harming Stephen Smith, as described below, has not been notified by any law enforcement entities of any allegations against him related to Stephen Smith's death. So here in paragraph 18 is where Buster Murdaugh saying, yeah, there's been all this talk in the community, but law enforcement hasn't said anything to me about, hey, you need to come in and sit down because we consider you to be some sort of witness and we want to take your statement and, we're going to keep you here all day. You need to bring your attorney. He's kind of saying in this statement that, hey, I have not been notified by any law enforcement entities of any allegations against me. All right. So then you see here, this is then where they start to lay out all of these different entities and their relationship to why he's able to say now, you guys defamed me. You said all these untruths about me and you published it to other people and I have been damaged because of it. So you can see here the Murdaugh murders, deadly dynasty. False statements. This is what they're saying. The false statements have been published to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of viewers who watch the show, including viewers in South Carolina. And the defamatory statements continue to be republished as of the filing of this action. And you see they're talking about Warner Brothers there. And then Blackfin, Murdaugh murders, deadly dynasty. Yes. Then we have Warner Brothers, Low Country, the Murdaugh dynasty through defendant Warner Brothers Discovery Inc.'s platform, HBO Max, now entitled Max. This is throughout the country and specifically within the state. The series publishes false statements that suggest the plaintiff, along with others, murdered Stephen Smith by striking him with a baseball bat, which is an interesting thing to say here because they are being a little bit more specific. I hadn't heard the baseball bat thing until they just said this. I had always heard car hit him, car hit him. So, yeah, and it's interesting to me that they didn't pull specific statements from the movies, but they sort of said some things here, sort of paraphrasing is what they did. The statements are defamatory in that they falsely accuse the plaintiff of committing murder. Defendant Campfire Studios created and produced the series Low Country, The Murdaugh Dynasty. So they're going through and talking about what each of these did. The defendant Netflix Inc. began streaming a series entitled Murdaugh Murders: A Southern Scandal, which depicts a young man with red hair carrying a baseball bat. The plaintiff has red hair and is readily discernible from the content of the series that the creators were depicting the plaintiff as the murderer of Stephen Smith. The series publishes statements such as, quote, "Everyone keeps coming up to me and saying it was the Murdaugh boys. And listening to these statements, it is pretty clear Stephen's death is intertwined with the Murdaughs," unquote. So they did pull that statement in there, put that in there. So you can see exactly what's going on with some of this. Cinemark LLC created and produced the series Murdaugh Murders: A Southern Scandal. And here we have Michael DeWitt. I feel like the fact that Michael doesn't just get a paragraph here. You saw the others, the other defendants, the entity defendants got just a summary paragraph. But look at what they do with Michael. Like, Michael, this is not the position you want to be in. Michael is the editor of Hampton County Guardian, a local weekly newspaper covering Hampton County. Mr. DeWitt appeared in the Netflix series Murdaugh Murders: A Southern Scandal in both his individual capacity, that's that personal liability right there I was talking about, and within the scope and course of his agency as editor of the Hampton County Guardian. In the documentary, he states, like, they are personally attributing statements to him. And I can imagine that these are specific statements that they're saying these are defamatory. And when they go to court, this is really what they're going to be arguing about. And I'm going to talk about the elements of defamation in just a minute. We were hearing all of these rumors about a possible connection. There is some truth to it. Imagine being the person and you have to listen to somebody else say there is some truth to it. Now, I'm not arguing one way or the other whether or not, there's truth to any of this. I don't know. I was not there. I have no idea. Okay. But here is what the editor says. There is some truth to it. We could not put the Murdaugh name in the story unless we wanted to face lawsuits. We said a prominent, well-known family was rumored to be involved. Well, now, come on. Everybody knows who you're talking about, okay? Everybody knows who you're talking about. And then it says that everybody knew who we were talking about. So you're not, the whole thing is like disingenuous when you say that. We published the story and we weighed in. People would come up to me in the Piggly Wiggly and pat me on the back. We're so thankful you had the courage to run the story. We did everything but put the Murdaugh name in the story. So these are the statements that they're saying are defamatory. And the last one, bullet point, like I said, didn't do this for the entities, but for poor Mike, they have given him bullet points. They have pulled specific statements that he said and have gone after him. It says, I began to have a bad taste. You know how you get, you just get this taste in your mouth. You just, you feel like a certain kind of way. So you know what he's talking about here, right? You can imagine what he is feeling and thinking when he says this part. I began to have a bad taste in my mouth about the members of the Murdaugh family as many people in the community did. All right. And it says here, when put in context with the remainder of the documentary, it is clear that Mr. DeWitt is falsely accusing the plaintiff of being involved in the murder of Stephen Smith. Mr. DeWitt's false statements defamed the plaintiff and damaged his reputation. And then at the very end, it says they're praying for actual damages, punitive damages, and the cost of this action. So that's what this lawsuit is looking like. And I tell you, there's some things that they're going to have to prove here. There's some things they're going to have to prove. Usually the elements of defamation, I'm just going to sort of sum these up and not get into a whole lot of detail. First of all, it has to be something that's not true, okay? Because if it's true and you're saying they said those things about me and you're just mad, you're in your feelings because now something that you didn't expect to be all out there in the public is out there in the public. And that's really what you're mad about. And it's a true statement, then okay, you've lost the case. So let's not file. Let's not do anything. You just need to let that die down. Go somewhere, vacation, do some nonprofit work for an organization. So you show your best self and then come back later. Okay. But a lawsuit is not what you want to do if what the other party is saying is true. Okay. So truth is one of those absolute defenses to this. So for it to be defamation, the statement has to be false. It can't be true, right? It has to be put out there in a way that is claimed as fact. Remember when the other person said, Mike said, there's some truth to it, or, so is he claiming some factual information there? So it has to be some statement that's not true, that's being claimed as fact, that people are negligently putting out there and sharing it with other people. We call that publishing it. They're sharing it with other parties, other people, so that it's out there. And then there's some damage to you. So that's essentially what you have to prove. But I want to focus on one of these in particular. And let me give you a few scenarios about how this works in an everyday sort of setting. Somebody calls me up as an attorney and they say, so-and-so's been talking about me on Facebook and I don't appreciate it. What they're saying is not true. I want to sue them. I want to take them to court. I want to sue them. Or, it's the, hey, I'm involved in a custody battle. And, there were some pictures I shared with my partner. And now there's, this other person is threatening to share those with family members and share my text messages and share things in a way that's not true. And they're making all of these other statements about me. And all this stuff is really false. Maybe they want to cease and desist. Maybe they just want to say, hey, just send them a letter and make them stop. And if not, I want to sue. I want to sue them for defamation because they're saying some stuff about me and I don't like it. I don't like it. So the first thing you're going to do is take a look at the actual messages, right? You're going to go to Facebook. You're going to look at them. And what you're going to see is somebody just saying stuff about you in the context of they don't like you. Or, they're saying, hey, you're about as dumb as a leaf. Your clothes look awful. You don't know how to dress. You never do your hair. You can't speak properly. Don't know how you can hold down a job. They go through this whole thing. They're talking about you. They don't like you, and a lot of what they're saying is maybe opinion. Okay. Opinion. I don't like her. I don't like the way she dresses. She doesn't even look professional. Well, that's their opinion of you. And you may not like it. You may totally disagree with it, but people are entitled to their opinion. And so one of the things we're going to be looking at here in this case with Buster is, when Mike is making some of those comments, where is the line between, freedom of the press to be able to go out and collect information and report facts versus him then being in a position where he's giving his opinion about some things. Like, I felt like there was some truth to it. I've been hearing this for a long time. Who's not going to think there's some truth to it? Like, that's what I felt. And so if he gets up there and he starts talking that kind of way, and it's sort of broad and it's not real specific, and he's just telling you, that's just what it seems like. That's what it felt like. It's just my opinion on, when I hear it, that's what I'm thinking. Then it's going to be very difficult for Buster's attorneys to be able to say, hey, this absolutely looks like defamation. In the end, it all comes down to the facts. It all comes down to the facts. So we'll see, are they going to go to court? What is the answer going to say? So now this has been filed. The question is going to be, all of these defendants, the entities, well, of course they're going to say, number one, no, no, no to all of this. We're going to deny every last bit of this. We're just going to deny it. And then the attorneys are going to walk into court with a motion to dismiss. Hey, failure to state a claim. There's no defamation here. These are opinions. Yeah. So then at that point, depending upon how things go, that's when we get into the nitty gritty of what this case is going to look like. But for us who are out here in the real world and people say things about you, and the first thing you want to do is say, I want to sue them for defamation because they said some stuff I didn't like. I'm just like, no, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. Okay. So hope that brings you up to speed and what's going on with, Buster's new filing demanding a jury trial, and we shall see where it goes. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.